Okay. Hey, so thanks everybody for joining in. I'm sure there's mutual interest across the board, and the reason why you decided to chime in. But just for your situational awareness, we're on a 40-minute call, so agenda will look like 20-25 minutes or so for presentation, and then we'll take 10 minutes or so on the back end to answer any questions. So unless it's really burning, we'll try to hold questions to the end. So one of the main things I've been working with over the past few months, it's really been around pricing. And one of the things that's came out of all of this was a need to understand how to price based on my particular unit, or in this case, for purposes of tool, any shared economy service that's out there, whether it's a vehicle in Toro, a boat on Boat Setter, an RV on RV Share, or an event space via Peer Space. So what came of that was just a simple spreadsheet data analysis that the goal is to take the guessing out of pricing, right? So if you look at what happens typically with pricing, I'll give you an example here shortly. You have one or two methods of obtaining price point for your service. And most people use either Wheelhouse, Price Labs, or one of the pricing software that's on the market. And then the other, people just canvas Airbnb or VBRO and take recommendations. But what we all understand about that is that data, it's just aggregated market data. Right. And the problem that exists with that from a pricing standpoint is that it costs everyone a different cost. Well, it costs you, your average daily operating cost is different for every unit. So your neighbor, and the other 1,500 hosts in your market all have a different price point. So what does that mean, right? That means if we're solely relied on aggregated market data, then we could be underpriced or we could be overpriced. And then what that means is we don't understand how to price based on our daily cost to operate our units or service, which then means we get into a deeper discussion about what do our occupancy rates mean, and how does that tie into how we price. And then we go a step further and we look at your profit margins. And then we ask the question, right? Are you priced based on profit margins? And if you are, then what does that mean for you? So the whole point is that we get to a point to where I want to talk to you all about is taking this pricing from just a guessing game based on aggregated market data to a professional pricing approach, as if you're operating a business, right? Because at the end of the day, the thing that's going to separate those that are successful and they're looking to grow a business versus those that are stagnant in the market is how they price their units and how they understand that and what does that mean over time as they look to grow their business, right? So I'll pull up my screen too here and share it with you. This is just a small example of what I'm talking about here. Can everybody see this Facebook screen? Okay, so this particular person in one of the Facebook groups, he had a question about why his unit isn't doing well. And I simply went in and asked the question, hey, how are you priced in your market and how are you determining your daily rates? And the response was, like many I've gotten, well, we just tried to price ourselves at a similar rate of those of similar properties that are close by, etc. Was not sure how else to do it. And what we found is that that's a pretty common problem, right? So, so therein lies the pricing trifecta, which essentially identifies the gap that exists there from a pricing standpoint, and to again help everyone understand how do we get to pricing professionally instead of guessing, right? So if you can see the trifecta here, in the lower right-hand corner, you'll see a third-party pricing tool. The benefit of those wheelhouse price labs, they give you some great data, but albeit aggregated market data that gives you an estimated price. And then they help you determine daily rates, your min rate, base rate, and then a max pricing rate. Again, but the gap that exists there is that those numbers are largely based on the area that you're in and not specific to your unit. And if you look in the lower left-hand corner, as the gentleman that we just showed, Ben, he relied largely on Airbnb data to price his units. So the pricing tool that was developed essentially ties that in and fills that gap. So we take your expenses from your account and your data from Airbnb or VBRO. We plug it in and then generate a profit loss statement for you over time, and then also help you determine how to price your unit. Right. So if there are any questions at this point, just drop them into the chat box, and what I'll do here is I'll pull up the data sheet and just let me know if you all can see it pretty clearly, or rather if anyone can't see it. Excuse me. So from the top, just a simple overview. The data sheet it's all encompassing in terms of what it's supposed to provide for you. So up top here, you see it's got a startup expenses column where essentially for a host that's starting up, whether it's a short-term rental, events here, or they're using a shared vehicle service like Turo, it gives you just about every category that you would need to plan against. So this just gives you startup costs for the type of service that you're operating. I'll come down here to the income, and this just over time gives you a snapshot of your income. So what happens here is you pull your numbers from your service platform and just pop them in there. And in this case, the example I pulled from one of the units in Somerville, South Carolina, that had an average daily rate of $235 per night, booked 26 nights that month at an 85% clip, and you can see the gross monthly income down there. And then we get into the actual expenses, and here's where some of the magic starts to take place with pricing. And just to note more specifically with this pricing, to the January column is the column that helps you figure out your average daily operating expense. So what we do, essentially just plug in all of your expenses. In this case, I've got all the expenses with the unit there. Let's see, let me change the color here. Got it locked. Okay. So what you'll see here is your total monthly expenses. Now, what this tool also does for you is it automatically deducts your Airbnb host fees and your cleaning fees, which are pass-through expenses. And you'll see here it gives you less Airbnb and cleaning fees, and then it gives you your total operating expenses, which is essentially your monthly operating costs. Now, what happens is this number, 3915, is automatically divided by 30, right? And then that gives us our average daily operating expense, which in this case, it's telling us that it cost us $130 per day. Well, let me back up here. Gotta zero those out. Okay. $130 a day to operate this unit. So for pricing purposes, it's important to understand that. So you know exactly what it costs you per day to operate your unit, and then you know exactly what it costs you when you're not occupied, and that's important to understand. So what I've done here in this case is I've taken out the profit margin percentage here and the occupancy rate. So at this point, the number that you're seeing in your average daily operating expense is essentially, if you're using a pricing tool, that would be your minimum price, meaning you will be priced no lower than $130 per night. So that would be your break-even rate if you were occupied 30 days in any given month. Now, that's important from a pricing standpoint to remember, as I'll come back to when you start to look at how to start protecting profits, as we change the conversation from just pricing to pricing for profit. And as you look out, you're looking at it in terms of where you are in terms of a profit margin instead of where you are just priced over a specific period of time. So as you look at now your business, right? You want to have an occupancy goal for your business, meaning based on what you understand about your particular market and where you've been operating in terms of occupancy, we want to determine a targeted occupancy rate. So what we'll do in this case is we'll say 75% occupancy rate. Now what you'll see, what happened here was I went from a recommended daily rate of $30. We'll put in 75% there, and it's going to give me 127. So 127.9 a night at 75% occupancy rate based on my average daily or my monthly expenses still puts me $3 below my my break-even rate, right? So important to understand there. Now, in order to break even or be profitable, I need to be roughly at about 80% occupancy, just based on my cost to run my unit daily and monthly, right? So then let's go in and say we've got a targeted profit margin at 20%. So we'll type 20% in there, and then now it tells me uh, to achieve a recommended daily rate and attain our occupancy rate, we need to be priced optimally at 155 a night, right? Um, and I want you to pay attention to these two sales down here, because this is where you can get into using uh, the tools that are out there, AirDNA or your pricing software, whether it's Airbnb, and just understand where they're pricing you. And let's just say AirDNA is pricing me at 160 a night, right? And then maybe Wheelhouse is pricing me at 175 a night. So the reason this is important, it changes the calculus, is now you can look at these numbers just on the surface and say that based on what Wheelhouse is offering, and if you're using them, the pricing softwares have three different categories: conservative, recommended, and typically aggressive. But understanding this now, strictly from a business standpoint, you could then go in and play with this, and let's just bump it up to 30%, which gives us 165 a night. Let's come down to 28%, and down again 26%. Boom. So now you can look at where you're priced within other pricing tools, and you can say, hey, you understand now. They have you priced at a 20%, 26% profit margin. And why is that important to understand? Again, as I alluded to in the beginning, strictly from a business standpoint, understanding profit margins, and which I didn't explain, but it is simply, if you're priced at $70 a night and you have a 30% profit margin, you'd be priced at $100 a night, meaning you have a 30% $30 profit there, just for simplicity. So understanding that where you're priced and where those recommendations are, now as you look across, say, a Wheelhouse, and they've got you priced at maybe 196 or $220, you can now plug those numbers in here and understand from a profit margin where you're priced, right? So again, that changes the calculus in terms of how you're looking at pricing and the conversation you're having from a profit margin standpoint versus just being priced based on a recommended price. And why that's important, again, let's just say that you have you booked half of a month at 40% profit margin, and you've met your monthly expenses. Now you've got the rest of that month to essentially make a decision, but the decision that you're making now is how do you protect profits, right? So understanding that you booked half the month at 50%, you were operating at a 40% profit margin. Now you can simply come back in and lower your profit margin percentage maybe to 10%. Understanding you've already got half the month booked, you put in a 50% occupancy rate here, and it'll give you a recommended daily rate that will be way below market average. But when other people look and say, well, how in the world is he priced at $100 a night, and average nights here are 150 a night? What they don't understand is now that you are essentially protecting profits that were already made in this case, versus trying to achieve every penny you can, which obviously you can, but again, the purpose of this is just to help you understand that when you meet those thresholds in terms of profit margins, then you have a decision point where you can look to protect those profits. And in most cases, that's the recommendation, because every day you're unoccupied will cost you. So the goal is to maximize occupancy, and for purposes of protecting profits, you get a chance to tweak your numbers to get to a point to where it helps out with your pricing. And again, so 9 times out of 10, it'll help you price below market rates, right? Which would then become significant, because if you're offering value and you price below market value, then it should in theory help your occupancy rates. Now, the other thing to note is you can see here there's a range of profit margins and occupancy rates. So we can tier this and go 20, 30, 40, 50, 70, 80, 90, and 100. So what's important about this is, if this represents January, this represents February, this represents March, and this represents April, what you can do in theory now, instead of just going in and arbitrarily saying, I'm going to charge people, the world, if they decide to book 5 or 6 months out, while that may be true, what I want you to understand professionally from a pricing standpoint is, what does that mean, right? So let's just say we're out in April, and we're priced at a 50% profit margin with a goal of 100% occupancy, which tells us I'm going to charge people $225 a night, right? If they book in April, $225 a night. Now, on one hand, I see a number, and that's exactly what it is. But on the other hand, the conversation is, listen, people that book in April, I'm achieving 100% profit margin on those bookings. Now, let's just say you get 75% of April booked, and you've got all those profits sitting there, and those 10 days left. And that goes back to the point, last discussion point, about understanding this from a profit margin perspective, and then looking to protect your profits. Once you understand that, and then you can get in here and tweak your numbers, so not only are you competitive when you come down, but you can get down to your 30-day bare minimum rate, right, to book out. And if you book out those 10 days, then you protected everything you made up until that point, right? So just changes the calculus of the conversation and get you more into a business mindset as it pertains to pricing. And lastly, before I get into another part of the tool, we're all in the business to grow. I don't think anybody's here because they just want to have an Airbnb or a Turo or their space. Everybody wants to grow in some capacity, and the key, the center of gravity to that is pricing, right? So you can have something unique that you're offering, but at the end of the day, within whatever you're offering and whatever value it has, you should understand from a number standpoint what it means every day in terms of where you're priced, right? Um, so I'll speed up here a little bit. I think we're kind of running short on time, but if you look right above the profit margin here, you'll see a discount calculator, and this is it's built really just to help you again take the guessing out of offering a discount. And let's just say we'll take we'll take 139. We'll take this number. We'll plug it in there. Oh, I've got to unlock that cell. Okay, so real quick, what this does for you, we simply will put the recommended daily rate here, and what this tool of this portion of the tool is designed to do is not drop you below a 20% profit margin when offering a discount. So you can put in the daily rate there, and then it'll give you the max possible discount you can offer without dropping you below a 20% profit margin. So again, the conversation becomes all about your profit margins, and this portion of it helps you realize that. And another portion of this that I think adds some type of value is this little part here that talks about unique value. And what we found over time is that uh, nothing helps you price for any unique value that you may have. So if you're a super host, how do you price based on being a super host? Do you guess? Do you look at what other super hosts are priced? If you're Airbnb Plus, Lux, another big one. If your home can sleep 10 plus, just about in every market, if you can sleep 10 plus people, you are offering something unique to a market that many people aren't offering. So what does that mean in terms of value? And then if you host unique events, kid-friendly amenities, pet-friendly amenities, depending on your location, the type of traffic or customers, clients you're getting in, you'll have an idea of what that looks like, and all this does is it helps you put in numbers to essentially play with it and say and see if it makes a difference for you in real time. So I can go in here and say that my superhost status is worth an extra $10, and you'll see it reflect here in the recommended daily rate. So it helps you get a look at any unique value that you may offer in your market, and then look to price against it and see it reflected here in your daily rate. So um, just just a quick recap, and then before I go, I think I hit the income, but the other part of uh, this is a complete profit loss statement for you. So it captures everything from that standpoint and gives you all your important numbers from a tax perspective here in your operating cost, and gives you both your gross monthly income and then your gross income year to date over time, with projected numbers here in terms of your monthly income, projected yearly income, and projected year profit there. So that's a good look. But again, so the bigger point being understanding pricing uh, and how to price based on your unit specifically in terms of your daily operating cost, and what that means from a minimum pricing standpoint. Where do your occupancy rates and your profit margins come in? And what does that mean for pricing from a base rate, right? And then the discussion about pricing for profit, and then understanding how to protect those profits uh, with that. So I'm going to stop. I think we've got about 3 minutes for questions. So let me have it.
Hey, Cav, you still on?
Yep, I'm here, buddy. All right, we got a
So I
question
guess I'll.
from Jamie. Is there a portion of
Go
the
ahead.
pricing discussion on how to price cleaning service for cleaners of Airbnb? Doesn't seem like that I am target market for this call. Yeah. Okay, hey Jamie, if you're still there, no, not specifically for cleaning services, but I'm happy to take any questions in reference to how we look at pricing cleaning services for cleaners. You know, again, after 50 or so investments, a number of different states across the country, a lot of experience to share there. So if there anything specific, I'd be happy to take it after this call. And LaShawn, what is Turo? I think you're talking about Turo. So Turo is just a peer-to-peer car service similar to Airbnb, but just for cars, where you can take your everyday commodity in a vehicle and you can rent it out in a Turo marketplace to folks that are traveling. Go ahead, Winston.
No, Cav, I was just going to mention, where could folks find the tool?
So the tool, it's available on your space website, www.yourspacestr.com, in our products in store, or you can find it on Etsy in our Etsy shop. If you search Etsy, Your Space STR, you should see the store pop up there. All right, folks. Listen, I think we've got about less than a minute left. So again, hey, thanks for your time. And I'd be happy to take any questions after. You can reach me by email at y.s@yourspacestr.com.